There are two types of Horites according to the book of Genesis. There are the ones who dwelt up in the Caucasus Mountains near the land of Haran. They are the albino Canaanites that the Most High commanded Abraham to clean up and civilize. The second group of Horites that are mentioned in Genesis 36:20 were Hurrians from the Aramaic, Hebrew, word kor meaning whole, which is from the root word kawar and means to be white, grow white, be pale, which is found in Ashuric Syriac, Arabic, as her meaning white. They are also called in Aramaic, Hebrew, Kiwi meaning villagers, the Hivites. Both groups of Horites were cursed with leprosy. This is the same curse that was placed on Canaan, Genesis 9:25, the fourth son of Ham. The pale Jews of today are descendants of the original Amorites who lived in the caves of Mount Seir, Genesis 14:6, who accepted the teachings of Abraham when he first went up to the mountains to cure them of their leprosy. They are not the descendants of Esau. They are the descendants of Canaan. As I mentioned earlier, there were two sets of Horites. The ones the black Jews in the Israeli church are misinformed about are the ones who inhabited the mountains of Seir, who are mentioned in Genesis 14:6, and I quote, "And the Horites in their Mount Seir, unto Elpern, which is by the wilderness." According to the Bible dictionary, the word Horites is defined as aboriginal inhabitants of Mount Seir. The name Horite derived from their habits as cave dwellers, for the meaning of the name is in Ashuric Syriac, Arabic, is simply har meaning mountains or caves and mountains. Their excavated dwelling are still found in hundreds in the sandstone cliffs and mountains of Edom, also known as Mount Seir. Reverend Walter Alther McRae states that some scholars think it is strange that the Canaanites are listed as descendants of Ham and not Shem. He says it is well established that the Canaanites are Semitic people. Why? Because the Canaanites of 2000 BC and onward spoke a West Semitic dialect of which Hebrew itself is a subdivision. That means that everybody in America who has given up their native language, be they African, Arab, Japanese, Polish, French, Irish, who have a native tongue by virtue of the fact they speak English now, they are Englishmen, and that's just not true. Being American, which is one of the few countries on the planet where people only speak one language, is where that point of view comes from. Most other countries people speak 3 or 4 different languages and still their genetic origin is identifiable. And if what Reverend Walter Arthur McRae says is true, then everybody that came from Shem, Genesis 10:22, and even the Canaanites in Genesis 9:26, where it says Canaan shall be his servant, and in verse 27 it says even Japheth, who shall be enlarged, will dwell in the tents of Shem. So then if Shem was the son of Noah after the flood, and all of you religious people believe that everybody else on the planet was dead except Noah and his family according to the words of the God of the Bible, Genesis 6:17, and the Quran chapter 29:14, then everybody on the planet Earth came after the flood, Genesis 9:18, and they had to have come from one of Noah's 3 sons, Genesis 5:32, and the 3 sons of Noah were Shem, Ham, and Japheth, Genesis 9:18, and as Genesis 9:26-27 clearly states that both Japheth's seed and Canaan's seed would live in the tents of Shem, making all of them Shemites or Semitic. And according to Genesis 10:6, the sons of Ham were Cush, and Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan. So our concern would be whether or not Cush, Mizraim, and Phut were Semitic, because the previous quotes makes it clear that Japheth and Canaan were under Shem, making them Semitic. So now who are the people of Mizraim? It is unanimously known that Mizraim was Egypt. It is also unanimously known that Cush was Ethiopia. And that Phut was Libya. All of these countries and people speak Semitic tongues, be it Arabic, Hebrew, Aramaic, or Varic, or even Ge'ez. This would mean that everybody after the flood were Semitic, even the Caucasian Canaanites. Or the Nubian Canaanites, they all were Semitics. That's right. That would mean that white people are also Semitic. And even if what the Israelites falsely teach that white people are Edomites, Esau was the son of Isaac, the son of Abraham, the son of Terah, the son of Nahor, the son of Serug, the son of Ru, son of Peleg, the son of Eber, the son of Selah, the son of Arphaxad, the son of Shem, Genesis 5:32. That list of names range from Genesis 5:32 through Genesis 25:25. Which would mean by this list that Esau also descended from Shem, making the Edomites by their teaching Semitic also. Most of your scholars simply refuse to take the time to check the scriptures word for word, verse for verse, chapter for chapter. If they did, they wouldn't make preposterous statements like anyone could be anti-Semitic when everybody on the planet according to the Bible is Semitic from Shem, from which the word Semitic. To hide this fact, Reverend Walter Arthur McRae, as well as many other misinformed newborn scholars, and they identify Semitic with language. Then every language on earth is Semitic if you believe in the Babel story of Genesis 11:1. Semitic simply means descendants of Shem. And what is interesting is, why are all the Hebrew-speaking Israelites using an Arabic pronunciation? Semites instead of the Aramaic, Hebrew, Shemites. They replaced the Hebrew letter Shin for the Arabic letter Sin. The Canaanites are not descendants of Shem. The Canaanites came from the seed of Ham. son of Noah by way of a curse that was placed on Ham's fourth son Canaan. Semitic is actually the name of all of the languages and all the people that stemmed from Shem, one of the triplets of Noah. Genesis 5:32. And if they wanted to be accurate about the original language, Genesis 11:1, that language had to have been beyond earth because God is conversing in Genesis 11:3. People on earth are talking about the making of bricks, and then Genesis 11:6-7 God and the angels are having a conversation, and the language that they were speaking in would have to be the father language of all of these languages, and that language was cuneiform from which all the Semitic languages came, Genesis 11:7. It would only take a little research to find out the right knowledge that would breed sound right reasoning, Nuwapu, and lift the spell of ignorance Leviathan/Kingu called religion that is blinding the peoples of this planet. Reverend Walter Arthur McCrae also states that there are other Sidonians, classifiable as biblical blacks. The father of Jezebel, Ahab's wife, was Ethbaal, king of the Sidonians, all Phoenicia, 1 Kings 16:31. The Syrophoenician woman whose daughter was healed by Jesus was from the region of Tyre and Sidon, Mark 7:24-31. And that other biblical Hittite blacks would include Tidal, king of Goyim, Genesis 14:1, Ephron son of Zohar, Genesis 23:8, Esau's wives Judith and Basemath, Genesis 27:46, 26:34, Ahimelech, 1 Samuel 26:6, Araunah the Jebusite, 2 Samuel 24:16-24, and Uriah the Hittite, 2 Samuel 11:3-24-23, and 39. Just to prove it wrong, let's take page 121, from the book The Black Presence in the Bible by Reverend Walter Arthur McCrae, where he states, and Uriah the Hittite, 2 Samuel 11:3-24-23 and 39. The last scriptural reference to the Hittites is 2 Chronicles 8:7, where it indicates that Solomon spared their lives by keeping them as slaves. Hence, these black people were further integrated into the black nation. Now this David violated the law of the Most High when they were commanded not to mix their seed with the Canaanites, Genesis 24:3. If Abraham, the Hebrew, and the Canaanites were of the same seed, both blacks, there would be nothing to fear because they would have all come from the same seed, Adam and Eve. But to prove that David took the daughter of Eliam and the wife of Uriah, 2 Samuel 11:3, who was a Hittite. The Hittites are the sons of Canaan in Genesis 36:2, where it clearly states the Hittites were of the Canaanites. It states in 2 Samuel 12:24 that David went into his wife Bathsheba and she bore him a son, Solomon. And I quote, and David comforted Bathsheba his wife, and went in unto her, and lay with her, and she bare a son, and he called his name Solomon, and the Lord loved him. Now we have to note what the Bible or Torah says Solomon looked like. I mean, let's get his description after David, a Nubian, black, man from the seed of Noah, Genesis 6:9, perfect in his generation, and I quote, these are the generations of Noah. Noah was a just man and perfect in his generations, and Noah walked with God. So David had sex with Bathsheba and gave birth to Solomon. His description in Songs of Solomon chapter 5 verses 10-16 and verse 10 starts, my beloved is white and ruddy, the chiefest amongst 10,000. Now to look at this quote you have to look in the Aramaic, Hebrew, and see what word is being used for white is skak from the root word sokak, to be dazzling, to glow, to be clear, to be bright. Now this does not have to imply a skin color. However, the next word ruddy in Hebrew in this verse is admoni from the word red. The same word used for Edom, red as well as Adam. This is clearly stating that he was no longer dark brown, or olive tone, or black like burnt brass after having been put in a furnace, or calm burnt black or cush black. But that something had changed in his complexion from his father, which was brought about by his father David mixing out of his race with Bathsheba, which resulted in Solomon being what we call light skin or red Nubian. The quote continues. Verse 11, his head is as the most fine gold. His locks are bushy and black as a raven. She describes his head as fine gold. That is a yellowish color, like again a light-skinned Nubian. She describes his hair as locks. The word being used for it is quitsa, means locks or locks of hair. Now this could mean he had dreadlocks. The next word in the verse to look at is bushy. And the word is taltal and means wavy. This eliminates the fact that he had woolly hair like lamb's wool or nappy hair, or what's commonly called kinky hair, but rather twisted, black, wavy hair. And they finally in the same verse liken it to a raven using the word oreb, raven. And a raven does not have woolly hair and black and shiny feathers like the hair of someone's seed who had been mixed, and the hair texture had changed from 9 ether to 8 or 7 ether. Which means changed from a flat follicle which would produce woolly hair to a curved follicle which produces wavy hair. Or with a wider curl. I hope you are beginning to get the picture. The next verse 12 says, his eyes are as the eyes of doves by the rivers of water, washed with milk, and fitly set. Now verse 13 says, his cheeks are as a bed of spices as sweet flowers. His lips like lilies dropping sweet smelling myrrh. Lilies only have 5 colors, none of which is brown, white, yellow, purple, maroon, orange. Verse 14 says, his hands are as gold rings set with the beryl. His belly is as ivory overlaid with sapphires. This verse clearly states that this belly, meaning his stomach, is as ivory. The word being used is shane, which means toothy ivory, and I know I don't have to explain what color ivory is or the enamel of the human teeth. This description thus far proves that Solomon was mixed, to say the least, not quite a mulattoes or albino, but that he was light-skinned with a goldish tint color and that he had black wavy hair. And in verse 15 says, his legs are as pillars of marble. Set upon sockets of fine gold, his countenance is as Lebanon, excellent at the cedar. First of all, the fact that they repeat the color gold for his head and his hands and now his legs tells you we are not talking about a gold crown or gold rings, and definitely not gold ankle bracelets. They are describing his complexion. We search in the word marble, we get sheish, which means something bleached white, byssus linen. This is self-explanatory. We're not talking about the strength of his legs. And finally in verse 16, his mouth is most sweet. Yea, he is altogether lovely. This is my beloved. And this is my friend, O daughters of Jerusalem. If this doesn't convince you, then read Songs of Solomon 4:1, where it states, behold, thou art fair, my love, behold, thou art fair, thou hast dove's eyes within thy locks, thy hair is as a flock of goat that appears from Mount Gilead. Note how the word fair is used twice. This fair as Yaphah implies to be bright, to be fair in complexion, as opposed to Genesis 6:2, where it states, the daughters of men that they were fair, and the word being used there for fair is tobi, meaning agreeable, pleasant, good. However, the quote about Solomon clearly is describing his complexion. Also in the same verse they speak about his hair, thy locks, thy hair is as a flock of goat. When referring to Isaiah, the description for the Ancient of Days, they describe his hair to be like pure wool. Wool comes from the sheep. Then in Revelation 1:14 they duplicate the same statement, his hair is white like wool. It is clear that this is the texture of a sheep hair and not goat hair, which is different. It says Solomon had hair like a goat, which is the word az, not a sheep, which is the word son in Hebrew. Now read Samuel 17:42. The word fair is used again for David. Make note that Genesis 12:11 describes Sarah, Sarai, as fair, using the same word Yaphe, which is referring to her complexion. Again, because later in where they describe Rebekah, Genesis 24:16, for fair they use tobi, agreeable. So it is clear that it is a distinction being used for the word fair in the scriptures. And make note that Rebekah's brother was named Laban, which mean white. They all were Syrians of Ur of Chaldea and had mixed their seed with the people that is the Phoenician, Canaanites, of that land. This is why the Most High commanded Abraham not to mix his seed in Genesis 24:3 with the Canaanites amongst whom he dwelt. So it is clear that Solomon turned out mixed from his father, mixing his seed and violating the commandments with Bathsheba, daughter of Eliam, the Gilonite of the city of Gilo in the mountains of Judea, and Holon, a city in Moab. And Goshen was a city in northern Egypt. And the Gilonites dwelled in Hebron, the place where Abraham buried Sarah. Genesis 23:2 and Genesis 23:19, it clearly states that Hebron is the land of Canaan. And Abraham purchased the burial place in Genesis 23:4, the cave of Machpelah, which was located in Hebron. Genesis 23:9, from the children of Heth. Genesis 23:5, and Heth was the second son of Canaan. So that Eliam was of the tribe of Gilonite, who were from the Canaanite tribes that lived in and around Hebron, making Bathsheba a Canaanite. All of these people are from the Canaanites, who are all Caucasians. Ephron was a Hittite, his father Zohar was a Judahite, the son of Ashur and Helah. Judith and Basemath were Roth Hittites. Ahimelech was a Hittite warrior under David, Araunah was a Jebusite, and Uriah was a Hittite, and Eliam, the Gilonite, was of Heth, a Canaanite. All tribes of the cursed seed of Canaan.